Jamar Chase commanding $40 million per year like your boy told you. No more 35. No more 37. In fact, the reports are that he's going to command more, possibly, than $40 million. We've got Cooper Kupp news, Tyreek Hill news, T. Higgins news. We probably have more news today than we've had in, I don't know, maybe the last week. The Fantasy Football Show begins right now. File on in.
FantasyFootballShow.com studios.
It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live!
Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
So here we are talking about Jamar Chase yet again. Jamar Chase looking at a $40 million per year annual salary when the Bengals could have signed him for 34, 35 last offseason. Now, I will say this. The salary cap goes up every year. It always goes up every year. So there's room to have this thing get bumped up anyway. And when you kick the can down the road, you worry about the future in the future. It doesn't really, at the end of the day, do anything. 40 million versus 35 isn't going to hurt the pocketbook much in 2025. They're going to get a deal done. Jamar Chase is going to ink $40 million per year. That's happening. $25 million to Ridley last offseason at the beginning of the wide receiver run. That was kind of wild, we thought. Then it wasn't. Then we had $29-30 million being kicked around for Ayuk and A.J. Brown and those boys, and that seemed like out of this world crazy. That happened. And then we heard $35 million for J.J. No way, that's going down. It went down. And now, as we've been predicting all offseason, $40 million per year is what this man's going to command. This coming from Fox Sports NFL. And this particular piece right here says Jamar Chase will command at least $40 million per year. Says Jordan Schultz, an NFL insider for Fox. And this is no surprise. It's no surprise. I don't know that he goes much over 40. I think the fact that JJ's at 35, you can easily argue as the Bengals, our line is 40, bro. You're going to get 40, sure. But if he starts asking for 45, 42, 43, the Bengals have a stance, you know. Jamar's got to come down to somewhat to planet Earth and say, give me 40, which is a remarkable number, shattering the ceiling for wide receiver contracts, and that's going to be plenty. The question is, will the Bengals pay it right away? Will it get dragged out? And very, very important is the order of things. If Jamar Chase gets his deal before T. Higgins, it affects T. Higgins' deal and everybody else. If T. Higgins gets it before Jamar, that can affect Jamar Chase's deal, because if T. Higgins signs 32, Jamar at 40 is going to be a little bit more of a stretch, and there might be some more back and forth. Whereas if T gets 34, Jamar's getting 40 easily. So there's a lot of order of how this thing goes down. I believe T. Higgins' agent, T. Higgins himself, his mom, his dad, his family, his inner circle is advising him to wait until Jamar gets his deal. Because if Jamar's inching to 40, 41, then you can really easily scale backwards about 5-6 million and say there's no way T. Higgins is taking less than $34 million per year. That's what he commands. It is what it is. You could say what you want about how they don't deserve this, the players don't deserve that T. Higgins is not Jamar Chase. Doesn't matter. Jamar Chase gets 40. Doesn't matter what JJ's deal is anymore. JJ commands 40. If JJ were to get a deal tomorrow, he would get $40 million per year. It's not T. Higgins' fault that the market changed and shifted. 34 is now what 30 was last year. 34 is the new 30. If Ayuk gets 30, any wide receiver in the Godwin might get less because he's 28, but T. Higgins range, T. Higgins is getting 34. He's not getting what Ayuk got. This is going to get wild. I'm excited. You're excited. This is probably the biggest news of the offseason. Last offseason was Derrick Henry, Barkley. Where do they land? That was probably the most entertaining information and news and such. The most annoying piece of news that we had to regurgitate over and over was Brandon Ayuk. But Jamar Chase, this situation is probably the most exciting news. Shattering the ceiling, the wide receiver mark. How quickly does he get into shape and form? Does he hold out and potentially miss time? I mean, we don't want him getting hurt. We don't want him doing anything crazy. So more on that, but what a big number, $40 million a year. Ashton Jeanty was asked in yet another interview, this coming from Barstool. Ashton was asked, this is from John Gruden. John Gruden interviewed him and said, where do you want to play? If you can envision yourself playing in a city, playing for a team, what team is that? What organization are you playing for? And Jeanty said, I think Dallas, playing in the Dallas Stadium, playing for the Dallas Cowboys. Quote, I think that would be amazing, end quote. Dallas, a report yesterday, told us that the Dallas Cowboys sound like they're interested. This is all fodder and projected news and rumors, and no one's releasing this information. And if you think about it, Dallas would be crazy to tell anybody, hey, we're taking Jeanty at 12. They're not going to do that. So it really is who's leaking information within the organization. Do we have any of that? Maybe. This early on, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think the Dallas Cowboys have come to a conclusion that's been widespread enough within the organization to even be leaked yet. So I do think this is all projection. I think it's people knowing tendencies of people. And honestly, my logic, I think, is the strongest logic of them all. When you think about the fact that Jerry Jones screwed up royally with the Derrick Henry and Barkley situations, not even considering those, he has to do something that can wipe clean that mistake. And just bringing in somebody great doesn't do that. Bringing in somebody mediocre like Najee and he outperforms expectation doesn't do it. Bringing back Dowdle as a starter and he's a free agent, that doesn't do it. That doesn't wipe clean the mistakes and sins of the past relating to Henry and Barkley and missing the boat on those. You know what does? Ashton Jeanty. You know what makes him say very arrogantly, and you can picture this, I know you can. If you know Jerry, you know I'm right. He goes to the podium or in front of the microphones or on radio shows. He goes, the reason we passed on Barkley and passed on Henry is because we would have been financially committed to those two running backs for a handful of years. Doing the Jerry voice really gets me choked up. I got to get real deep and back in the throat. For a handful of years, we wouldn't have been in a position to invest in Jeanty at the running back position if we were locked up and committed to Henry or Barkley. So I made a good move after all, didn't I? Yeah, let's go, Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones did it.
Let's go, mashed potatoes.
I'm not saying it's based in truth, but that's the way he's going to describe it. You know it, and I know it, but I also know how Jerry's mind kind of works. None of us really know, because he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, he does this. He wakes up on the wrong side of the bed there, he does that. But at the end of the day, this is a situation where he wants to rectify his mistake, and this is it. This is a solution that explains why not bringing in Henry was a good idea at the end of the day. Like, if you try to, sugarcoat it. Or Barkley. So Jeanty wants to go to Dallas. He's made that very crystal clear. Dallas, we don't know. We're speculating. I think using my logic and a lot of the information we're hearing, it does seem like Dallas does want Jeanty at 12. And everybody, every scout, every solid, knowledgeable person in the NFL draft space knows that Jeanty's worth a top 5 pick, not just a top 10 pick. Very knowledgeable people around the NFL draft content know, without a question, 100%, no equivocation, no stuttering, no misinterpretation, Jeanty's a top 5 overall pick in this NFL draft. Not a lot of teams need a running back sitting in the top 5. top 1, 2, 3 spots kind of reserved for quarterback. So you're not going to take one at 1, 2, 3. You move down. But the Dallas Cowboys might not even see Jeanty fall to number 12. They're certainly not going to telegraph that's what they are going to do or what they're leaning to do if they're already kind of on the verge of maybe missing out on Ashton Jeanty. So I tell you this. We know Jeanty for sure wants to play for Dallas. We don't know if Dallas for sure is smart enough under the command of Jerry Jones and the way that they're going to try and build this team up. There's a lot of holes, a lot of things they need to do. We don't know if Jerry wants to go in the direction of drafting Jeanty. We know Jeanty wants to go there. We don't know if Jerry will, and I don't know that we will fully know, because why would you telegraph it if you're at the bottom of the likelihood in the range he's going to go? You're at the tail end. There's no way he's fallen to 15 or 14. If he falls to 13, he's getting taken. So, Jeanty, let's hope he goes to Dallas. It is the best location. The Raiders are solid at number 5. Very solid landing spot. I don't know if they've got the balls, cojones, to take Jeanty at 5, but if they did, I would commend it. I would celebrate it. You would celebrate it. I don't think anybody here is going to take him. I think it's the only threat. At 6. The only threat is maybe the Raiders at 6 taking him if he was to go early. And then really you look at it, and New York's not going to take him. Carolina could, but probably won't. You might say, oh, they just, Chuba Hubbard, they got... Look, this is a once in a generation. This kid is generational. New Orleans Saints, they just gave Kamara an extension. So you kind of think with Chuba Hubbard and the extension to Kamara, you're probably looking at no team except for maybe the Raiders taking Jeanty before 10. Chicago's the problem. I'm not saying it's the worst location in the world, but I don't want him in Chicago. I don't want him playing for this organization that are comprised of non-serious people pretending to be football minds. They're not. They don't know how to run an organization. They don't know how to surround the players with talent from a staff level, from a GM level. They have one of the worst GMs in the league that pretends he's good, and everybody pretends he's good. He's not. He's the problem. And he got rid of everybody else, scapegoating everybody else instead of getting rid of himself. If he loved the Chicago Bears, he would have let the Chicago Bears go. But Ryan Poles is still there making an absolute mockery of this situation. And to be honest with you, Jeanty's the best pick at that stage in the draft. But the problem is you're the Chicago Bears and you don't have an offensive line. And don't get me, if you're a Chicago Bear fan out there, and you think you know that they're not taking Jeanty because they have offensive line needs and holes everywhere, stop right now. You're embarrassing yourself. Your mother's embarrassed of you. This is the same team, the same GM that took a wide receiver in the top 15 last year with their second pick. They had 2 picks inside the top 15. Obviously, they had the number 1 pick. They took Caleb. Great pick. So what do you do with your other top 15 pick? You probably grab offensive line to protect Caleb, right? You got to, right? Everybody knows this is going to be the worst offensive line in the league. They got to do something. They could take an offensive lineman. They could take a handful of players that fit really, really perfectly. And who's the offensive coordinator? The guy I laughed at and said, oh my God, this guy's going to be gone as quickly as can be. What happened? He was fired immediately. He was fired within the season. The Shane Waldron character came over from Seattle running 2 wide receiver sets. Shane Waldron knows no 3 wide receiver sets, and Shane Waldron had never called a running play himself. This is a 2 wide receiver set architect. Really not an architect. He barely was ever really offensive coordinating in the league for 15 plus years in and out of the league, college football. Never really commanded an offense until Seattle. He commanded it in Seattle. 2 wide receiver set system. You've got Keenan Allen. You've got DJ Moore. You have no room for a 3rd wide receiver. What do you spend your top 15 pick on? A wide receiver. So don't tell me this team that drafted Rome Odunze, they couldn't even use him because they ran 2 wide receiver set system with this guy. He didn't know how to run a 3 wide receiver set. You're telling me that this team's not going to mess up and take an RB, and they can't even block for him. And Ben Johnson, as much as I love Ben Johnson, as much as I love him, doesn't mean he's going to be a good head coach, especially when he gets put in a place where the team does not ever develop properly. They just don't. Ben Johnson, we need to make sure that we do not judge Ben Johnson on the result of this situation. We can judge Ben Johnson on his choice of going there, but we cannot judge Ben Johnson if he isn't supported properly and he ends up watching Ryan Poles draft an RB. And I love Jeanty, but you have no offensive line. Caleb Williams is running for his life. Caleb Williams not only runs for his life, but he holds onto the ball too long. Nobody held onto the ball longer than Caleb Williams. Poor decision-making in structure. Poor decision-making when he's not on the run. Horrible inside the pocket. Horrible in the first quarter. It was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out all year long. The only time Caleb ever started to produce in any game last year was when they were down big time, because they didn't lead in the first quarter really ever. Maybe once, I think late in the year. They were down, and teams would play a little bit of prevent, and Caleb will be throwing on the run, and that's where he's successful. You're going to try and construct an offense that can protect him in the pocket. I don't even know that he can throw inside the pocket. And I get so tired of this Caleb glazing. People on Twitter and X, they say things like, is Caleb ready to dominate? What has Caleb shown you that makes you think he's going to dominate? And even if you like Caleb and you think he's got good skills, like a lot of players, Johnny Manziel had good skills. Josh Rosen had good skills. Those are not quarterbacks that translated. Even if you like the skill set of Caleb, he's in Chicago. And I don't want Jeanty going there. We don't want it. We want him in Dallas. We want him in LV. We want him in a couple of those locations. Here's what I say. And I put this on Instagram. If Ashton Jeanty goes to Dallas, he could be a top 5 running back as a rookie. In Dallas, in LV, he's got top 5 potential upside. In Chicago, he's going to be limited because of the offense and the offensive line. This report here, Cooper Kupp, teams are interested in potentially trading for him. Talking around the league, Kupp will have a market, but because he's so quarterback friendly. Certainly Washington is looking for a complimentary number 2 receiver. Washington is looking to make big moves this offseason. And let me tell you this. We've got, I don't know if I have it on screen here. Let me see if I forgot to drag this piece of news over, which is pretty damn important news. I'll have to go find it and make sure I put it on screen. But Chris Godwin is inching closer to staying in Tampa Bay. And the reason for that is he moved that time frame on his contract. Let me pull it up here and put this on the screen. According to what was the report? According to numerous reports, Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin agreed to push back his contract void date to the day before the start of the new league year so that the team and Chris Godwin could work out an extension. Chris Godwin wants to stay in Tampa Bay. This is kind of a nut punch to anybody that was expecting him to go elsewhere and to maybe be the one. Kind of a nut kick to anybody that expected the Washington Commanders to potentially be a suitor for Chris Godwin. Here's the news here. So this is very, very much Chris Godwin wanting to stay in Tampa, and very, very much the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wanting to make it work. Coming off the massive ankle injury, he's going to probably be okay. He's an injury-prone player, but this puts Cooper Kupp's value
stock on the rise.
On the rise. Why does it put it on the rise? Because you've got another player that we're maybe taking off this board. T. Higgins, franchise tagged. He won't be on this board any longer. He could be traded for, but he's not a free agent anymore. The moment the tag becomes official. The moment Godwin re-signs with the Bucs, he's off the board. What do we got? We got nothing. We got Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, old players, J.K. Dobbins. We got Fields and Darnold. Those are the most exciting free agents. But for wide receivers, you take Higgins and Godwin off the board. You only have Washington looking at the rookies, which Adam Peters is great for nailing down. But then you have literally Cooper Kupp, little Cooper Kupp. Diggs will have a good year. Not really, Bleeko. He tore his ACL, bro. He's a 30. Ziggy, how old is Stephon Diggs?
Stephon Diggs is 31 years old.
31.
And was born on
November. Turns 32, bro. Ziggy, volume 10. Turns 32. Coming off an ACL tear? I don't think so, bro. I don't think Diggs is doing much at all. But he'll appreciate your enthusiasm. But Diggs is looking like he's cooked anyway. He's definitely on the decline. Coming off an ACL tear? Get out of here. This is the most attractive player in the National Football League at the wide receiver position. And he's not a free agent, but he's the most accessible player because his team for sure wants to move him. Godwin, Bucks, they're going to get their way and re-sign Godwin. And keep in mind, because of how bleak the wide receiver market looks, the Bucks are going to pull out all the stops and give him a $30 million, $32 million per year deal at 28. They'll give it to him. It might be shorter term deal. Might have some outs after 2 years. A lot of upfront money. But the Bucks are going to feed this man $30+ million a year at the age of 28 on a nice friendly contract for the team. But he's going to be off the board, which means that Cooper Kupp goes to Washington potentially, or Adam Peters banks on a rookie, or Adam Peters banks on a rookie and brings in Cooper Kupp. But this is the most attractive wide receiver option now that T. Higgins and Godwin are off the board. At least he's probably off the board. I know I've been predicting everything correctly so far. I'm not saying he's for sure a commander, but he's the most attractive wide receiver get right now. And let me ask you a question. If you're Cooper Kupp and you're told, hey, Kupp, why don't you go out and get a trade cooked up? This is the LA Rams talking. Why don't you go find a suitor, Cooper? And Cooper says, okay, Rams, I'll go find a suitor. Where are you heading? Are you heading over to the Raiders where they don't have a quarterback? Are you heading over to where? The Buffalo Bills? I don't know. Weather? I don't know. Maybe you head over to the most exciting up-and-coming young quarterback in the National Football League that might just be the best quarterback in the entire league within 1 year, if not already arguable there now. Why don't you go to a GM that knows how to cook up a potential championship run? I have a feeling Cooper Kupp's number 1 or number 2 landing spot preference-wise is the Washington Commanders. And you know what matters? Where he wants to go. You know what matters? What team got all the way to a point where if they had a couple more weapons, they could have advanced and maybe made a championship game? Washington Commanders. Buffalo Bills as well. But we saw Amari Cooper go there with a little bit more gas left in the tank than we realize, I think. And he didn't do anything over there because they're spreading it all around. It didn't mesh well. Cooper Kupp isn't going to the Patriots Legion. I love you, pal. I love you. Not going there. Maybe the Chiefs, because guess what? They can win. Cooper Kupp's going somewhere to win. He's going somewhere to play with an elite quarterback. Chiefs are in the mix. Chiefs are in the mix. Buffalo's kind of in the mix. Ravens could be kind of in the mix, and they're probably looking to add another piece to try and see whatever they can do to get Lamar over their hump. But Washington's the most attractive place to go play. Play for a GM like Adam Peters, number 1 GM in the league, probably. Well, you got Philly and Washington, really. The 2 best GMs in the National Football League are on that side of the fence in the NFC. What an amazing 2 GMs. Just, Roseman and Peters are probably 1 and 2. I don't know which one's 1, to be honest. I mean, the Eagles is very easy to say, Roseman's Howie's the best right now because he just won a Super Bowl. But what Adam Peters has done in 1 year is comparable to what Howie's done for multiple years building this team up. They're both, you could argue back and forth all day long. And Cooper Kupp's smart enough, I think, to know that this is a very rich environment to go play, where if he is losing a step, he could have whatever deficiencies he has kind of emerging right now. They'll mask him. They'll disguise him. They'll move him all over the field. And I'm not saying I think Cooper Kupp flourishes like to his old self type levels, but is he maybe a 908, 909 receiver, wide receiver 3 in fantasy surprise because you can get him as a wide receiver 4, 5, 6, or whatever. I don't know. If he goes to Washington, we'll see where his ADP climbs. I could see people getting overly excited. But Cooper Kupp probably on the move. KC, Buffalo, Baltimore, and Washington would be my early guesses. And I could pull up all the teams in the league and just kind of wander for a second and just say, where's he want to go? Remember, where's he want to go? This isn't like trading Myles Garrett, where he goes where they want him to go. This is where Cooper Kupp wants to go. And he's not going to the Jets if they get rid of Adams, and nor is Aaron Glenn going to want to build an old team. He's getting rid of Aaron Rodgers and Adams to build from the ground up youth, future. Chargers, look, is it possible? Yeah. But is he going to choose the Chargers? They don't look like they're the contenders that the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, if they were to lose T. Higgins. But that's going to be decided before T. Higgins in that situation even gets close to unraveling, if it does unravel at all. It really is. It really is. Green Bay's a little intriguing because he probably knows Jordan Love's got upside. Green Bay's got upside, but they're still like a step behind everybody. I don't think he wants to go to a team that's a step behind because he might only have 1 year left. It's Washington. It could be San Francisco if, like, let's say Debo got traded and Ayuk was behind. There's known information that he's behind big time. I could see that situation coming up. I'm not sure it would be the spot, but it could come up. And it really is Washington. It is Buffalo. It is the Ravens. It is Kansas City. 3 teams from the AFC, the 1 team from the NFC. That's where Cooper Kupp's landing, one of those teams. You heard it right here. Chris Godwin will be back in Tampa. Tyreek Hill. This report's interesting. It's not 100% that the Dolphins won't trade Tyreek Hill. Part of what we talked about when he walked back his, I'm gone, I'm done, I'm out of here, I'm not playing in Miami anymore. Part of what we said the day he walked that back, he went around Radio Row doing interview after interview on an apology tour. Part of what we said was this could be him trying to clean up his mess so that he can try and make amends so he can get traded. Because keep in mind, when a player says I'm gone, when a team says we're getting rid of him, the trade value tanks because every team, it's weird. You'd think that one team would just say, I don't care about whether they're going to release him, and then I got to compete for him with all these other teams. I'd rather just make the trade, give up some garbage draft capital for a player that I want. But the NFL's fickle. The NFL's a copycat league. The owners all follow suit on things like this. If he said, I'm not playing anymore, all the teams are going to step back. And I'm not saying he'd get released, but they would step back and say his value plummeted. We'll trade for him on the cheap. We'll sit back. We'll wait. We'll let his value tank. But if they clean up, and this is what I said when he first apologized and took it back, this might be him and the team going, look, you got to save face. You got to act like things are good. We'll try and trade you behind closed doors. This is not a report that broke. This is my speculation. That behind closed doors, they're like, we'll try and trade you, but you can't be doing this, bro. You're ruining our ability to get top dollar for you. If we trade you at the height, and he's not at his height, but his height is they can get him. And it's, when he got traded from KC, it was the world, right? Because he was on top. They didn't want to get rid of him. It was wild. You can't get rid of a player that says, I'm out of here. There's no leverage. So the thinking here is that there's still a chance he gets traded. It would be wild if he went back to KC. It would be wild if he went to a team like the Baltimore Ravens. It would be wild if he went to a team like the Buffalo Bills. It would be wild if he went to a team like the Washington Commanders. Past that, I don't know where the hell he'd go. I don't know that he would go to a location that doesn't have a chance to win a ring, to win now. I don't think that would be his intention. He'd rather probably stay put, and he put a squash on the whole thing if it was getting sent to a team he didn't feel had a great chance of winning a Super Bowl. He's not going to the New Orleans Saints. He's not going to the freaking, I don't know, Pittsburgh. For some reason, teams really think the Steelers are the landing or players. You never know. You never. Tomlin, he wins. I like this. Team players are weird. Players don't even know where they're at half the time. They don't see the big picture. So I shouldn't say it's out of the question. But Tyreek Hill getting traded is still a possibility. This right here, NFL salary cap projected at $227.5 million to $281.5. You want to know where that extra money comes from to pay Jamar Chase, the difference between $35 million and $40 million? There you go. So anybody that thinks that the organization, and they are kind of not so on top of things, you could say. The owner's a little bit asleep at the wheel, no pun intended. He's literally just dragging his feet whenever he talks. You can barely understand him. He's just stuttering if he knows where he is. But if anybody says that they dropped the ball by not signing him last year versus this year, really, again, the increase in salary cap accounts for the difference. It does. It's big math that if you step away from it, you realize how minute the difference really is. And, what if Chase would have got hurt? They could have signed him at a much cheaper deal. So they made a gamble. He was a Triple Crown winner. They get to pay a little more. They get that money. Essentially, it's all going to work out. T. Higgins is going to get extended or playing on the tag. I don't think they trade him. Joe Burrow is going to restructure and do whatever he wants and whatever it takes to get these guys both inked. Joe Burrow will smoke less cigars if needed. He'll do whatever he takes. He's already said it publicly 12+ times. And keep in mind that so much of the contracts can be reworked later. So much of the contracts can include upfront money, which I know the Bengals are cheap about. But you can absolutely structure these things in ways that make sense, okay? And the problem, you don't have to pay for everything now. That's the other thing people need to understand. You start winning a Super Bowl or make a Super Bowl run, you're making more money in jersey sales. It all works out at the end of the day. Again, big money, big picture, like zoom out, and it's not a big deal. You sign all these guys, pay all this crazy money, negotiate, move around Joe Burrow's contract, and then you win a Super Bowl. You pay for all of it. It all works out. The salary cap is fugazi to a degree. Travis Kelce reports that the Chiefs would like to know whether he's going to retire or not by March 15 when the new league year starts so they can adjust and adapt appropriately. This Chiefs team that has maybe a top 5 wide receiver room in the National Football League. The Chiefs are unreal at the wide receiver position. What a wide receiver room the Chiefs have walking into this coming season, as people doubt this team because they lost the final game. It's unbelievable how much people want to dial back and recoil the accolades and success that Patrick Mahomes has had because of one game. Jameson Williams won't face league discipline after avoiding charges for carrying an unlicensed gun in Detroit. Keep in mind that the NFL doesn't do anything typically unless it's some crazy occurrence, and they can put you on the commissioner exempt list paid so they don't violate any agreements with the NFLPA and what they've decided to do with these situations and let the legal matters play out. But if it's egregious, if it's crazy, if it's something wild, and this is wild in most situations in people's minds, but it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something just absolutely disgusting or crazy or insane. Even though he's not convicted yet of something, the NFL can act. But they don't act on things like this, even battery, even domestic violence, even things like that. They typically say, we'll let the legal process play out. We could still implement some sort of legal or some sort of disciplinary action, even if the player is deemed innocent or if they plead no contest or things like that. There's still policy in place to take action and do their own investigation, but they don't implement any discipline until the legal process is over. So the fact that he did not get any charges for this, the NFL said, okay, we let the legal process play out. There was no charges. If they think there's no reason to charge you, then we're not going to discipline you. So that means Jameson Williams will not have any sort of suspension in 2025. And that means our boy, our man, our madcap, J-Mo, is going to be a monster again in 2025, just like we said he would be in 2024.
Let's go!
Now, that doesn't mean we're not disappointed in you, J-Mo. Doesn't mean we haven't ridiculed you or ripped you apart for your obscene and cowardice act of running off the freeway like a coward after you caused a big pileup and all of your friends and you just run away from the scene while there's a trapped family in a car. Thank God they didn't suffer life-threatening injuries. They did go to the hospital. It was a disaster, a debacle, and we made you say shame and walk through the town ringing the bell long enough. You know, we have taken verbal action against J-Mo and had a lot of live streams about it, but it doesn't change that we are a business, and in a business, we must make the right decisions to win championships. So I don't worry about what he did or didn't do off the field. If he's playing and he's playing lights out, we don't care. We can ridicule the situation, but we come in strong. Let me tell you what the fantasy football implications are. Just like Alvin Kamara. Nobody was harder on Alvin Kamara than this show or myself when he went through his little situation in Vegas. But what do? When the ADP fell, we said, buckle up, Buttercup. You're gonna win your league. And boy, did people win leagues off of Alvin Kamara's value in that offseason. So, J-Mo, smarten up. Keep your head on straight. This guy does not seem to have his head on straight when he's off the field. When he's on the field, he's absolute straight fire.
Let him cook.
Any $20 haulers, I pound out a set. BBQ, appreciate your super chat. I'm sorry I didn't get to it yet. BBQ, you still here? Why draft O-line to protect Caleb? Dude doesn't like playing in the pocket. I mean, it's a good point, but either way, he's getting crushed, right? So they got to figure out a way to block. You can't take Jeanty. You can't take Jeanty. It would be, even though Jeanty's an amazing pick, and it really is the pick for anybody in the top 10, the way the Bears are set up and the way they're going to fail Caleb if they don't protect him, it's like the one team that can't do it. They shouldn't do it. The Niners better not take him. These are the two scary landing spots for Jeanty. I never finished it. Caleb going, or Jeanty going to play with Caleb at 10, and then San Francisco taking. And don't tell me the Niners won't. Oh, Smitty, I know. The Niners have offensive line. Stop. You're embarrassing yourself. Stop acting like you, just because you have logic going on through your head, that the Niners won't do the complete opposite. They took Ricky Pearsall in the first round last year when they couldn't even use him. Don't get over Cooper DeJean, who was no surprise. We knew DeJean was going to be as good as DeJean was.
Motion detected.
We talked about DeJean constantly, and the Eagles are going to steal him away. The Eagles stole him away. It was just embarrassing. So don't act like the Niners are incapable of taking Jeanty at 10. Just stop. Just stop. You're embarrassing yourself. Mark Andrews. Dan Graziano believes that there is, from ESPN, believes there is a good chance that Mark Andrews and the Ravens can come up with a way to stay together in 2025. This is a guy falling off a lot. I would say him and Kelsey are in the same place in their career. Like, you just don't even know where you're going to get anymore. He's better off staying put. You could maybe get 7 touchdowns and like 400, 500 yards out of him in his current location with his current offense where he doesn't need to learn anything. So, but going somewhere else, I think it fails. So he needs to stay put for him to have a shot at getting the same kind of value back that he's capable of getting in our minds. You're not going to get it elsewhere. Changing teams, learning a new system. Jordan Schultz reports that several teams have called the Rams about Matthew Stafford. We talked about this yesterday. There's a good chance that the organization, according to multiple reports that are not based on any fact whatsoever, it's a lot of speculation, and trust me, bro, sources out there, that the Rams are sick and tired of Matthew Stafford's wife. That this woman keeps going on social media and podcasts and doing interviews, constantly bad-mouthing the Rams, bad-mouthing the situation, bad-mouthing how they're treating Cooper Kupp. Not that I don't agree with that they should be treating Cooper Kupp differently, like the way that they're just moving on without even consideration. But they're sick and tired of this this tandem, the Staffords, coming in and just meddling with everything. So there is some real reality here that the Rams and Stafford could part ways if they don't come to an agreement on a long-term deal, which Stafford wants, even though Stafford's contemplated retirement for like 2 years, 3 years. We've heard it for a while. We've heard it for a while. It's not that Stafford hasn't changed his mind. Every year we don't know if he's walking away. What team wants to give him a 3-4 year deal? So there's a chance that the Rams, who are a smart organization with their players, their values, their contracts, how they build, what they do, how they try and rebuild as quickly as possible, they could bring in Aaron Rodgers. I know a lot of people are going to say no to that, but there's a chance that works. With McVay, it could. They could bring in Justin Fields. I really like that idea. Fields to Puka would be interesting. But I do believe that if Stafford leaves, Puka takes a big hit. Not just in ADP, but in my mind. I'm not drafting Puka Nacua. I draft him in the second round, but I'm not taking him at even 10, 11, 12 overall if Matthew Stafford is not there to laser lock on him. And if this man goes anywhere else, let's say the New York Giants, the most closely linked situation that Stafford's being linked to when we start talking about potential Stafford landing spots, it is the New York Giants. And that situation, my friends, takes this man right here to not only the moon, not only Mars, not only Saturn, not only mother freaking Jupiter, but it takes him to the Andromeda Galaxy, and his stock would be more than on the rise. He would be more than a
to
Jupiter man. He would be an Andromeda man. If Stafford goes to the Giants, or I deem that the Giants quarterback, even if it's Cam Ward or Shador, if I deem that the quarterback situation is 100% turnaround or 180-degree turnaround. Jason Kidd said when he came to the Suns, when he was traded to the Suns as a player, he said, I'm going to turn this team around 360 degrees. We're going to turn the Giants around 180, preferably. So if we turn this organization around 180, and I deem that whatever quarterback it is, I'm maybe going to send Malik Neighbors to Andromeda, and we'll create an Andromeda where one player only per year can sit in the Andromeda Galaxy. That might be what I do. That's how excited I am about this kid and this cat. That, man.
The Jupiter men.
This
Jupiter
guy
is so large, every planet in the solar system could fit inside it. There are no bigger monsters than the Jupiter men.
Andromeda. It would be Andromeda. I might just make the first Andromeda Galaxy man, and it'd only be one per year. Only one guy can sit in Andromeda. And Rain Stafford, the Giants equals Neighbors top 3. No, Neighbors is top 3 no matter what. He's number 1 overall out of running backs, wide receivers, everybody. He's the number 1 overall player if Stafford's there throwing the football to him. So Malik Neighbors to the moon. He's already, no matter what, a top 3 wide receiver, my boy. Even with no quarterback. Even if they bring in Taysom Hill recovering from an ACL tear, and that's the only quarterback they have on the roster, Neighbors is a top 3 wide receiver this year. So more to come on Stafford. It's not an all said and done staying in a Rams uniform type of situation, I promise you. We got Christian Kirk, 75% chance the Jaguars release him. I mean, he'd be a decent addition. He'd be a team would be interested in him. He's a pretty good wide receiver. He's been good for a while. Salary cap, season by season here, last 10 years. Look at this bad boy. Since 2025, we'll go back 5 years. 2020, 198. It's now 181.5. 181.5. That is a dramatic climb and increase, which is why the salary cap is fake to a degree, which is why it doesn't matter if T. Higgins and Jamar Chase cost the Bengals a boatload. And, they got 3 players they got to rein in this offseason. It doesn't matter. It's a fictitious fugazi. It's pixie dust. It's fairy dust. Poof, it does not exist. And Jamar Chase and T, it's the way to go. I'm not saying it happens for sure. It's the way to go. That's the news. What a amount of news. 44 minutes of nonstop news to get you caught up. There's no better news show. I'm a little biased, but I would say there's no better, my opinion, there's no better news show out there in the NFL space, let alone fantasy space. This is not just a fantasy news show, 8 p.m. Eastern. If you got an NFL buddy that doesn't play fantasy, you tell them this is the place to come. We'll get you up to speed on everything in the NFL. Phone lines are now open.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Phone lines are open. Lots to talk about. I mean, you guys could dig into anything. We've got so much. Okay. Hit me with it. Smitty, we need a fake moon landing list. Fake moon landing? You mean like they're gonna fail? I mean, we kind of have that in a way already with the planet Uranus.
And off he goes to the planet known as Uranus.
And Clint, I don't know if this is the same Clint, but Clint S says JD is beginner's luck one season written after his rookie year. We put in quotes that was written after his rookie year because we want to make it abundantly clear. Is that the same Clint? Is that you, Clinty, or is that's a different Clint? Travis, you're live. Hello.
Can you hear me? Hey.
Yep.
Yeah. So with if Godwin's off the board, which it looks like he will be, it almost makes Ted McMillan even more valuable. I know his stock is going up as is, but if you're looking at, if you're in the top of the draft and you don't know, like Patriots, for example, Jaguars, talking about McMillan, like you're going to go for them or a lineman, or you can sign a Stephon Diggs or a Keenan Allen or something. You may be more likely to go with McMillan at this point, especially now.
Yeah, I think that McMillan's going to be T-Mac McMillan, the magician. He's going to be. There's so much upside. I would say like there's a potential MHJ letdown with any wide receiver. Like, and I don't hold that against McMillan. I don't hold it against anybody. And I think it's a really like it's a weird and too cautious Caleb approach of fantasy football to worry about last year's rookies or people saying we took so and so too high, and MHJ is a perfect example. We can't think Jeanty's worth the top 14 overall pick. Look how MHJ turned out. You can't play like that. Gibbs and Bijan and Bijan would have been as good as he is right now if it wasn't for Arthur. That didn't have to do with like a rookie disappointment. It was just a weird situation. You can't live your life like that. Jeanty is special. Jeanty could be top 5, and McMillan could be a top 7 to 10 wide receiver as a rookie. But his landing spot is definitely important. I don't think he's Neighbors good. That comes around once in a 15, 20 years. You get a Neighbors. Yeah. Neighbors looks like Jamar. Like you can tell Neighbors is Jamar Chase. You can tell every movement, every cut, every catch. I mean, he's the smoothest player in the National Football League at the position, in my opinion. I think he's smoother than Chase. I think he's smoother. Neighbors is the most smooth operator at the wide receiver position I've seen in maybe 15 years. So maybe ever in some sense. I'm not saying he's the most dominant. Like you look at Calvin Johnson, no one dominated defenders and with size more than Calvin. Like there's different attributes. But when I look at Neighbors, I can't think of a smoother player. I just can't. I can't even thinking back. Like Randy Moss was just different. He's lanky. He was just dominating space around him. Jerry Rice was precision. I would say you could say smooth, but I don't think I'm even describing Jerry Rice in the way that I'm describing Neighbors when I say smooth. This is a guy that just, to me, he could be the best wide receiver in the league for like 7 straight years. He's that good. He just needs a quarterback. He's unreal. And BTJ's not even Neighbors. BTJ's like CeeDee Lamb. And Lamb is amazing. Lamb could be the number 1 fantasy wide receiver, period. Like in any given season, just like BT could be, and just like Arian Foster could have been, or Priest Holmes, or Or JT could be the number one running back in a season. But are they LT? No. Are they Marshall Faulk? No. Neighbors can be that top receiver, but he's also the most electric, smooth, talented, physically gifted player at the position in the league, in my opinion, or at least tied with Jamar Chase. So it's like you have the best of both worlds. You can have a great player play like the best player, but this is the best player at his position or tied with the best player, in my opinion, that can also play as the best. Like, it's a double whammy. It's more security that they can replicate it. Like, when you think about BT and Lamb, because they're not the most elite player all around, they're the best at a couple categories. They're the kind of players that from year to year could fluctuate. This is the kind of player that as long as he's healthy, he's at the top 3, 4 every year. That's the difference between a Jamar Chase, a Malik Neighbors, a Randy Moss, Megatron, all those guys, is that if they're healthy, they're at the top every year. Doesn't matter. Like BT, I love. BT's phenomenal. CeeDee Lamb, I love. One of my favorite picks is here, CeeDee Lamb at 7, 8, 9, 10 overall. But they are different types of players. They're dominant at certain categories of their play, which can lead to number one fantasy option. Just like DK Metcalf is a favorite player of mine in the 5th and 6th round, because he's so capable of getting touchdowns and dominating space. But is he ever going to be a top 3 wide receiver? No. Could he be a top 10 wide receiver any given year? Yes. I like DK a lot right now.
Obviously the best comp, like we said, is Evans and London, and we've seen from a couple places scouts saying like mix of AJ Green and Mike Evans for McMillan. So it's like, teams see it, but I think, as these guys fall off the board, the value just goes up more and more. Like I've been saying for a while, I'd rather the Patriots just take him at 4 and worry about the line through free agency and whatever. Because even if he's not Neighbors level, that's the only way you're getting the number one wide receiver to me. And unless you're making some big trade, there's no one out there.
You know what my prediction is for the Patriots? I think you guys do get Ted McMillan. I think it's a high likelihood.
I hope so.
He's just by far and away the best pick for you guys. The fact that you need this wide receiver.
The only reason why I would say they might not is because he doesn't necessarily fit the Josh McDaniels offense, but he can fit any offense if you're smart. So my hope is that they just say, we need the receiver, take him. Because Josh McMillan likes to play, horizontal and short intermediate, and doesn't play the downfield game a lot, but McMillan does everything.
Yeah, I think McMillan can't really be typecasted yet either to a type of play.
Right.
I think he'll be fine no matter where he goes. But yeah, this is just a player I see as a safety net blanket player for a guy in Drake May who's still working on being accurate. He's mobile. He's a gunslinger. He's an impromptu type of decision maker. And he could throw an inaccurate ball from time to time that this guy can one-handed grab. And it's a match made in heaven, in my opinion. I think McMillan will be a great, great addition to the New England Patriots. And it's the best move. It's the only move that makes sense. And yeah, as we talk about Godwin being ripped off the board in terms of available wide receivers, because the news today that he's going to kick that void for his contract down to the final day right before the new league year begins. And that means that he's trying to work out a long-term deal. The Bucs are trying to work out a long-term deal with him. He's probably staying in Tampa. You don't make that move unless you're really close or you're going to get a deal done. The Godwin's almost as good as done returning to the Bucs in my mind. I'd almost put a 90% probability that Godwin remains a Tampa Bay Buccaneer based on today's news. T. Higgins, I would put at an 75 to 80% chance, which still leaves a lot of room for a trade, but 75 to 80% chance he's going to be a Cincinnati Bengal again. That means, that Ted McMillan, as you just said, and he's just going to be the best option. You can't go get Higgins or Godwin or anybody like that if you're the New England Patriots and go attack the offensive line or whatever you want to do in the draft with that number 3 pick. You now are in a different position with no wide receivers left to acquire. And as I said earlier, Cooper Kupp ain't going to the Patriots, nor do they really want to develop May with an older receiver that's just going to leave him. And then now what's he do? So typically the best way to develop a quarterback is a young wide receiver, a young quarterback, typically the same draft class or 1 year apart, maturing together. You know, that's why I think Adam Peters is very adamant about getting a young body on top of Cooper Kupp even in place, even if it's a rookie that they just love. Like, they get a wide receiver that they love a little cheaper than they should. Adam Peters is amazing at scouting. You got to do that. That's an important part of evolving, I think, a quarterback properly. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase together, and I think that there's a real strong possibility that Drake May is going to want this kid. He's going to want him or Travis Hunter. The question is, if Travis Hunter were to fall, let's say Tennessee went quarterback and Cleveland went quarterback, then it's like, you know, you got a tough dilemma. If the Giants, or let's say Tennessee goes defense, let's say Cleveland goes quarterback, Giants go quarterback. I'm sorry, and then New England's left with Hunter or McMillan. That's tough because Hunter is exciting. He brings defensive, potential to the table as well. And now you've killed two birds with one stone. You've got a player that can play both sides of the ball. And I'm telling you right now, for anybody that thinks that Travis Hunter is not going to play wide receiver, you're making stuff up. You heard it from some garbage podcast that told you that he's going to be a cornerback, a defensive back. He's not going to play wide receiver much in the NFL. I'm not saying it doesn't work out like that, but we don't know. Travis Hunter is not saying I'm not playing wide receiver. Everyone's just connecting these dots that aren't there. And it's ridiculous how many people come to me and say, Smitty, didn't you hear? As if I don't know, as if I'm not embedded in this stuff all day long. They come to me and say, Smitty, didn't you hear? He's listed as a D-back at the Combine. He's going to play DB. Stop listening to those podcasts. Whoever's telling you this BS, don't listen to it. This man wants to play wide receiver. He talks about playing wide receiver all the time. Just recently, talking about how he loves the position. He's not walking away from wide receiver. And he'll play as much of both as he can. Now, do I know what percentage and how much of which he's going to play? Honestly, I think in his mind, 100% on both sides of the ball. I'm not saying he's going to do that, but in his mind right now, he believes he can do that. I don't think he's decided at all. And it's wild to me that people think he's not a good receiver pick in this top 5, top 6 overall. Like, it's wild to me. It's electric. One of the most exciting players to have the ball in their hands coming out of this 2025 NFL draft class. And so McMillan and Hunter will be very, very close. And by the way, on Underdog, promo code Smitty, where you can draft right now for a 2025 best ball draft. I'll drop the link in the live chat. I'll pin the link in the live chat. Links in the description. Code Smitty gets it done. But on Underdog right now, you can draft Travis Hunter in double-digit rounds. And Ted McMillan is worth a 4th-round pick, but he's going in round 4. Travis Hunter's going in like 11, 12, sometimes later. I'm not saying I don't like him more. I'm not saying he's not safer. I get all that. But that's a wild discrepancy. And I think that if you want to scoop up a player with a ton of upside, take Travis Hunter as your number 5, 6 wide receiver in fantasy football best ball. It's not going to last. That's a great value. Dial in, guys. Phone lines are open.
Yeah, it's crazy to me, the people that, and they're out there. They probably won't admit it if you call them out, but that just straight up write him off as a wide receiver. Like, they're 100% convinced he can't do it, or just no one will let him do it. And I just don't buy that. Especially once he gets there and he's on the field. I mean, that's part of the package. You have to, unless you're an idiot, you have to take a look and see what he can do there.
Yeah. John, you're live. What's up, John?
Hey, Smitty. I got a few questions. First one is, do you still want Jeanty going to LB if they have no quarterback? Because, I fear that he could end up being Jacobs 2.0 and being just run into the ground, especially with Pete Carroll possibly. And then the other question is, who's your favorite buy low non-QB player in Dynasty not named DK?
So as far as your Jeanty question, there is there's still, I think you're assuming the worst in terms of the Raiders not bringing in Darnold, not bringing in Fields, not bringing in Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is the most exciting option in the world, but that is a bridge that will get it done, I think, especially if they lean on the run a lot. And I don't think because Breece Hall struggled a little bit last year that we just assume Aaron Rodgers was the reason. It was the offense, the way they tried to implement it. Look, the Jets were toxic. The staff was not. Remember when Adams got traded there midseason? He said when he got there, he couldn't believe how the team just wasn't a team. He got there and the defense would recover the football and the offense would be going out on the field, not even excited, not even cheering them on. He's like, what's wrong with all of you? Like, get up and stand up and cheer your teammates on. Like, what are we doing here? There's no camaraderie whatsoever. This was a Jet problem. I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers, he might have, unfortunately, maybe, not for sure, had all the gas run out of his tank in New York when it was New York's problem, not an Aaron Rodgers problem. And then he goes over and fails wherever he fails in 2025, if he fails. And then we blame it on Aaron Rodgers and say, see, he was washed. And maybe like, and this is like I say, big picture, you zoom out and you see everything more clearly. We may not really know what kind of gas he did have left in the tank. You remember all the practices, man. Aaron Rodgers was zipping it around, as Denny would say, to Garrett Wilson left and right, one-handed catches. Aaron Rodgers still has the cannon. I truly think if he went to the Steelers, he'd have success. I don't think he will win a Super Bowl, but I think this team, who notoriously goes into the playoffs every year, he gets a free ride into the playoffs. Then it's like, what can he do? Will he win one game? Will he not? I'm not saying he goes to a championship game, but Aaron Rodgers in a Steeler uniform might win a playoff game, or it just depends on how they build around him. Aaron Rodgers in LV with Jeanty and Bowers, bro, I don't know. I'm not willing to write off Aaron Rodgers in that situation to the tune of Jeanty doesn't have success there. And like I said, that's a worst case scenario. I still think you've got Fields, you've still got Darnold. Darnold might go back to Minnesota, in my opinion, but he might not. And so you've got an opportunity. Fields would be great. Also, they could trade for Joe Milton, who I like, and I don't care if other people don't like him. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm constantly, going against the grain. I'm not saying he's a lock, but I like the opportunity. And who knows? Maybe they draft Dart, and Dart becomes the darling of this quarterback class. I mean, there's still a lot of opportunities. Your bleak assessment of Jeanty going and they have no quarterback. It's a headless team, and they run the Wildcat all game long. Like, there's going to be somebody there to throw the ball. It might even be Russell Wilson, which I don't like. I'm not saying that, but they're going to bring somebody in, and I think they'll lean on the run a ton. Your second question was what sleeper go get dynasty player? That was your question?
Yeah,
right?
not named. Yeah, non-QB and not named DK.
Okay, go into my thefantasyfootballshow.com rankings where you can get year-round fantasy football rankings, bold predictions, the trade calculator that I invented in the industry in 2003, at least to my knowledge, because I looked around, I couldn't find it in 2003, and I said, damn it, I'm going to create one. I'm going to create a website. That's how I got into the industry. No joke. I developed a trade calculator. There was not one around, and that's why I got into the industry in 2002/2003. Dynasty Go Get Player. MHJ is one that I love in the higher range wide receiver territory. JSN is also in the higher end territory. I like Rashee Rice a lot. I think people are worried about the injury and also worried about the suspension, which he could see a 1 to 2 game suspension or 2 to 6 game suspension. McMillan's very, very intriguing. Laporta at tight end is a fantastic value. I think that, Kyron, Breece Hall, and Bucky going in round 3 in redraft indicates people are worried about them to a degree. So maybe their values are a little bigger and better in Dynasty, but probably only because the old dogs above them, like Henry and those guys, fall down. I don't know that it's so much that people think, Bucky's a third rounder in redraft. Bro, I mean, he's in all intents and purposes in the same exact territory of value to people in Dynasty, because how could you be worried about him in redraft? He's young. His situation's great. So I venture to say he's probably cheaper than he should be. I think Patrick Mahomes is one of the biggest values in fantasy right now. People are just writing him off. He's a 5th and 6th, 7th rounder sometimes. It's crazy to me. He's got one of the youngest and most exciting wide receiver rooms in the league. I don't care if Kelsey retires or gets abducted by aliens tonight. They've got Rashee Rice and Worthy. This was a top 5 wide receiver room. So Patrick Mahomes, Laporta at quarterback and tight end, Bucky, Charbonnet, Etienne and Bigsby, the combo. Love that in Dynasty. David Montgomery. How about David Montgomery? You hear me talk about Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery. Montgomery's nothing to Jahmyr Gibbs. Doesn't hold him back at all. But the fact that Monty's like a 4th or 5th or 6th round pick, depending on where you're drafting, right now in redraft, I can't imagine what you could get him for in Dynasty right now. You could probably get him for free. Give up a late 2nd round pick for Monty? Sure, I'll ride that train for a 1.5 to 2 years and win a championship as my flex player. Like, no doubt about it, bro.
Appreciate it, man. Have a great night.
All right, later. Bob coming in with strong questions there tonight. Where's Chuba Hubbard ranked? I'll tell you right now, undervalued. No matter what we say, any of us, he's undervalued because God just keeps delivering, and his situation is pretty good. I'd say Chuba Hubbard. You know what's crazy is the video that I have. One of the intros back in the day had the board in the background where I had the rookies ranked Chuba Hubbard's year, and I had Hubbard like 2. Yeah, really high, and he totally failed. And it just goes to show that, like, sometimes, man, you can't predict everything. And I love Chuba Hubbard as a rookie. I was so high on him. I was literally, there's not a single soul on planet Earth that was higher on Chuba Hubbard than I was. But I will say this, I gave up on him, so I can't even claim success for Chuba last year. I can't. I wish I could. I wish I could come in here and tell you that I was the guy that told you to go get him in pre-draft. I didn't. I was definitely avoid, the rookie Brooks is not gonna come back. Trade him any chance you can get. But it sucks to have liked Hubbard more than anybody on planet Earth, and then to not have been there when he finally got his chance to rise. Like, that's one of my regrets last year. It's like, damn it, why did I give up on him? Why did I give up on him? Because I was literally, as a rookie, I had him too high. It's embarrassing looking back at my rookie Chuba Hubbard rankings. But, man, he looks good. He's so good. So, BBQ, I'd say elite wide receiver 2, bro. I mean, he deserves that ranking. I don't know where I'd even draft him if push comes to shove. I think you know what's going to be, BBQ? I'm going to take him as high as I need to in a certain percentage of best ball. Let's call it 7% of my leagues. I'll take him when I can, to the point where I got him in 5 to 7% of my leagues. And if I got to take him high, I got to take him high. It's hard for me to take him as my 3rd drafted player in, let's say, a very rare amount of home leagues that you do. If you do 2, 3, whatever, makes it harder. But in best ball, that's the cure for any
stack above all stacks. It's time to drop.
Wrong button. That's the cure for any, like, oh, I'm a little scared to take this player too high. The cure is best ball. Code Smitty, link in the live chat pin, link in the description. You just draft a bunch of that player in best ball, especially like a Derrick Henry, or you don't want to draft too much Barkley because you're worried about his 400 mother freaking carries. Just saturate the hell out of your best ball. And you could even, and this is what I call brute force drafting, you could even take one tournament, one contest, like the Puppy 1 or the Puppy 2 or the big board or the little board, and say, you know what I'm going to do with the little board, or what I'm going to do with the Puppy 1 or the Puppy 2? I'm going to draft as much Barkley as I can to get as many variants of a Barkley team as I can, and then I'm going to pull my foot off the gas in the rest of the tournaments and draft a decent amount, but sparing amount maybe, of Barkley. That is a beautiful way to approach best ball, because the little board's $3. You could literally draft like $100 worth of $3 best ball drafts and draft Barkley every chance you get, oversaturate, and then you can step away and go, I've got so many Barkley teams, I have to have it covered. If my predictions happen and go right this year, I have to have covered it already. Now I can move on to another player. Maybe Derrick Henry's your Puppy 2 oversaturated player. I get so tired of hearing people say you got to have X percentage of this player. Never oversaturate with this player. Never do whatever the hell you want. Because the thing is, if you think Breece Hall's the number 1 running back this year, and you draft Breece Hall every chance you get, yeah, you could screw up and have all your teams tank. But if you land Breece Hall is the number one running back, and that's what you predicted, and you oversaturate, let's say 50, 70, let's say 70% of your leagues at Breece Hall, because you can't get the draft slot for Breece Hall in every league. But let's say you reach in a lot of them too. You own Breece Hall in 70% of 300 drafts on Underdog, and you land that. You have so many variants of Breece Hall teams. This could be the best year you've ever had. It could be the worst year you've ever had, or it could be the best year you've ever had. Don't listen to a single soul who tells you to undersaturate, oversaturate. You do whatever the hell you want, because who's to say you aren't going to have the 55 to 300 different variants of Breece Hall teams, or let's say you think Garrett Wilson's the number one wide, whatever you think, and you have 50.
I don't think. Oh, I was just going to say, so how much do you think this makes guys like Diggs or Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen? Do you think teams are going to overpay for them, or you think they'll, be more hesitant and they'll get, 1 year deal, 2 year deal? How do you think that shakes out with
the
wide receivers like Godwin and Higgins off the board?
It's possible with Diggs. I mean, he's coming back from an injury. I don't see a team overpaying for Diggs coming off an ACL tear. And he's older. Cooper, I think Cooper could get a little bit of an overpayment treatment. Keenan Allen could, I think. Yeah, I think these two guys, maybe one or two of them get a little bit overpaid, but we're not talking about anything all that noticeable. I think where it gets crazy is the few wide receivers that might be movable, Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp, who are kind of, we believe, falling off a little bit. They might get overvalued in the trade market more than anything, just because, not everybody's going to be able to draft Ted McMillan. Only one team can. Not only one team can draft, these 3 or 4 rookie wide receivers. And then it's like, if Godwin stays in Tampa, which is about 80% likely at this point with today's news, with Higgins 75% likely to stay in Cincinnati, even if he's playing unhappy on the tag, holding out until the end of September or the end of August. I think that, you've got a little bit of an overpay for Cooper and Allen. Maybe Diggs if he was to prove healthy, but I don't think he'll be that healthy. And then, bro, it's like if Tyreek Hill, this is again why I think the team wanted to have him clean up his act a little bit in terms of saying, get me out of here, I want to be traded, because they want to help improve the trade market a little bit in case somebody comes offering something they can't refuse. And then, boom, man, they trade him for something huge. Yeah, Kupp and Tyreek Hill probably get overvalued.
Yeah, the Tyreek Hill stuff will be interesting to see if they actually do move off. And
yeah,
still a big piece for Tua.
I mean, the thing about Tyreek Hill that's so confusing is just even when he goes running around the baseball diamond, the other day on social media, like he was trying to time how fast he could, turn the bases. And it was like, I forget what it was, how many seconds it was. It was a crazy time. But it was probably faster than almost anybody in the entire MLB. He turned the bases so quick. I forget. Someone can find that time. Someone can Google that time real quick. But it's confusing to me because there's no way he's going to, even at his speed right now, be contained. Like, it's not like he's dropping balls or running the wrong routes. Like, why wasn't he thrown to? No one can really explain it. It was almost as if somebody put a bag over our heads and then took it off at the end of the year, and nobody's asking questions. Nobody's even really investigating it. I'll be honest with you, I'm left a little baffled. And there's moments where I almost go live and say, you know what? Let's go all in on Tyreek Hill at third round. And then I back off, and I say, his hamstrings are going to blow out at any moment. They're probably paper thin at this point. That's something that a lot of people have joked around about in years past. But the reason they say that is because this guy fires off his hamstrings differently than the average human being. It's 100% go. It's, this quick twitch of these guys like Deshaun Jackson. They fall off abruptly. But still, it's like I see him in the third round or sometimes later, sometimes, sooner. But part of me thinks there is definitely a chance that I come around in the next week or two or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or a month and I kind of push all in on Tyreek Hill at his cost of entry. Not oversaturating, but I just feel like there's nothing explainable. He's too quick right now. How is he not getting the ball? It didn't make any sense. And I know why, real quickly, and I know why he said that he wanted out. I was a little confused because I don't know if you remember me all season long. I'm saying the guy's got to be washed, or wouldn't he be saying in press conferences after games, why did I get the ball? Like, I need the ball. Throw the damn ball to me. He was smiling. He didn't care. He acted like, okay, my time's done. I'm done. I'm not any good anymore, so I'm just going to smile and put on. Like, it seemed like his behavior matched that he had dropped off. And then at the end of the year, he does what he's supposed to have done during the middle of the season each week. Give me the ball. Why am I not getting the ball? Trade me. Why am I not getting the ball? Diva-like. He didn't do any of those things. And so I'm left scratching my head, and then at the end of the year, he does do it. So I'm like, okay, wait a minute. He did what I thought he should have done throughout the year. At the end of the year, maybe there's something left in this kid's tank. There's a real strong chance that he becomes like a Moon Man hype type player on this channel. Just because his ADP right now on Underdog, promo code Smitty, his ADP on Underdog is right at, let me pull it up. I can even put it on screen here. And I refresh just to make sure it's the most accurate data. I mean, it is Tyreek Hill 24 overall. That's climbing a little higher than I thought the last couple days, I guess.
But still,
if he's your third player,
you're in the mindset that he can be 80% of what he was, he's more than worth that ADP. So it's worth it to take in certain situations.
Drew says he ran the bases in 12.6 seconds, 12.06 seconds.
Yeah, that's right. 12.06 set a new world record. I saw something about.
I don't know how to explain it. I feel like
1932 was the record. I'm sure someone else could do it, but like Bo Jackson probably could have done it, or something like that. But yeah, because Ichiro was like 3.7 seconds down the line, and that's one of the fastest ever. So he's blowing that out of the water.
I'm just a little scared that we're talking about missing an opportunity that we're all going to live to regret if we aren't taking him in third round territory. Let me give you an example right here. A live example right in front of everyone's face. On the clock in a slow underdog draft. On the clock right now at the 2.11. Tyreek Hill is there. Now, I just said I like him as a third drafted player, but I see Breece Hall sitting there at 26. I got Josh Allen. I got Chase Brown. I got Kyron down there at 34 if I want to kind of punt the idea of taking Hall here and then taking Tyreek. I can take Kyron if I want early or something in this best ball scenario. I'm going to take him here. Who do I have so far in this draft? I got Saquon. So I'm going to take Tyreek here. And then now I have the ability to come back around in two more picks and take either Breece Hall or Bucky or Kyron Williams. I'm gonna start taking more Tyreek Hill. I don't know for how long. I don't know how much percentage. John, you can call back if you want. I didn't mean to take so long. You hung up. There's no reason not to.
Do you think his it could have just been off year with the charges that came down, and who knows what you have going on, and then the wrist injury. I mean, maybe he had trouble catching with the wrist. I don't know. But is there a chance he's just a little bit more mature and realizes? Now, I know we want to hear people chirp a little if they're not getting the ball, but realizes this, not the time and place, and I can demand a trade after the year or something. Could he have just matured a little?
I don't think.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying whether he did or not.
The problem is, I just think we don't know what the hell to do. We don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
We just don't. There's no logical explanation, and everything that I wanted him to do, he did at the end of the year. And I think it's just because there have been so long of me saying he needs to get vocal, or he's washed. He has to be washed, or he'd be vocal right now. And the fact that he didn't do any vocalization of it, and then he did at the end, I was already over it. And it's just like looking back, I'm like, like the frog in boiling water example. You throw the frog in boiling water, he jumps out, but you throw him in lukewarm water, turn it on high, and the water starts to cook, and it gets boiling. He just boils to death, has no idea. Just subtle change in temperature, and he doesn't jump out. I feel like that's the way I approach this situation. It's like, why isn't he screaming and yelling if he's got something left in the tank? And it's like I'm watching him, and I'm like, he still looks quick. And then at the end of the year, he does what I want him to do, but I'd already boiled. I was the frog. I already boiled in the water. I already gave up on him, and it's like now he's crying wolf, and I'm like, I don't care anymore. But why don't I care? Guy goes out and sets a world record running the diamond, and it's like there's still speed here. And what is the correlation to this team falling apart? Tua. When Tua wasn't on the field, Miami Mike McDaniel punted the season away. He just didn't know what to do. He's not a good coach. I'm sorry, he's not. He's a great offensive coordinator, great scheme architect, but Miami Mike McDaniel's an awful head coach. And they, there's a chance, and they brought in what's his face? What's his face? QB coordinator now from Houston. Slowick.
God.
And Bobby Slowick is gonna, I believe, give a little bit of, help to Miami Mike McDaniel. Oh, this guy's on the clock, so he's gonna pick right here. He's gonna give Tua. There he goes. He goes 2 wide receivers. So Jamar Chase, Terry, and T. Higgins. So I can take Breece Hall. I could take Breece Hall. I could go Josh Allen and go balance. I could go. This is a slow underdog draft, by the way. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Josh Allen, McBride, JSN, Chase Brown, Kyron, Cook, Marvin Harrison. I kind of just think I'm going to roll with the Breece Hall. I really do like Josh Allen here, though. But I think I can get like Mahomes and 6-7, whatever. Let's go Breece Hall. So team so far is...
Did you say he's 24 ADP right now?
24, right there on screen, 24.0.
And so I would guess just with people like this is hype built unless we hear something, or if he gets traded, I think he'll skyrocket in ADP. But his ADP will probably climb a little bit, I would guess, depending on the draft and stuff.
Maybe not. Maybe it already climbed. Maybe it already did its damage because he was in the mid-third, late third. Now he's at the 2-3 turn. Maybe it's already climbed to its height.
That's what I was going to ask is, if he was in like the mid-third, would you be much more aggressive as opposed to end of the second?
Much more aggressive. But like if we look at this second round here, so let's go back to the 2.1 with Christian McCaffrey. A.J. Brown, Achane, Brock Bowers, Jeanty, London, JT, Bucky. Oh, Bucky was gone already. Ladd, I don't take Ladd in the second, but he's always gone by the middle of the second, so I know he'll be in there. Jacobs, I mean, that's I don't see Tyreek climbing ahead of any of those guys. I think he climbed to his peak, the 23, 24, 25 overall territory. Because there's nothing he's going to be able to show everybody enough unless it's a trade. If he gets traded to like back to the Kansas City Chiefs to play with Mahomes or something, like, but even that, you've got Rasheed Rice and Worthy, so you got to worry about that.
Yeah.
Like, let's say he goes to Buffalo. Let's say he goes to the Commanders or something. I think that the hype behind the movement could have him float up into the middle of the second, sure. But if he stays in Miami and we take him at face value that he's staying in Miami, I don't see anything he can do between now and like the second week of the preseason that will increase his value any more than 23 overall. So I'm not all in at 23, but I'm starting to really, really, really like Tyreek Hill more and more as my third drafted player, or in an arguable situation like this where I say, technically speaking, once I make the 26 overall pick, and I'm assuming Breece Hall falls, and he did, can I switch that in my mind later and go, okay, I took Tyreek a pick earlier, 2 picks earlier than I wanted, but if I would have went Breece Hall, Hill would have got taken. So I just I flipped it. I made it okay in my own mind, and I like this. I mean, I might even take like a Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill team if I can, and put all 3 of them together just to see what the hell happened. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be my old man squad, but I'm really starting to come around on Tyreek, and I might even post this segment as its own video on the channel in a little bit, and maybe that be my talking up Tyreek moment. I don't know. John, you can call back if you want. If anybody else wants to call real quick, I'm ending the show.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
All right, Travis. Call in tonight if you're around.
Did you see Navage's super chat? I can't remember.
Oh no, Navage, are you there? It didn't alert me to it. I'm sorry, Navage. I got to reset my super chat alert. Navage, you there? Let me know if you're still here, pal. Neighbors.
Yeah, I'm here. Hey,
I was a minute ago.
Hold on, John. Hold on 1 second. Super flex. Neighbors and McMillan or London in the 1.5 in Stafford. Give me Neighbors and McMillan without a hesitation. Without a hesitation in my mind. And then we got a $50 holler from BBQ in the building.
BBQ.
BB.
Give me $50 holler.
Whoops.
Give me $50 holler.
Want it.
Give me
Want it.
BBQ, real quick, John, hold on 1 second. What makes this show special is the insight, Smitty. We get the mind of a GM, NFL scout, and analyst in one. So glad I found the show and amazing community. Thank you, BBQ, for dropping the $50 holler. You're going to freaking Jupiter, son. I hope you like the weather there. Pack
To Jupiter.
Pack for a windy, stormy situation. I think hasn't that Jupiter storm been going for like a million years or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
John, you're live, real quickly.
I wanted to ask: Are you drafting tonight, and then are you waiting to make the Arms Wide Open or the Creed Neighbor song?
Yeah.
Until they get a QB, are you waiting until they get a QB
No,
to do that? Or
I think I'll make it.
Is that
no
on the
matter what.
agenda?
I think I'll make it no matter what. I might have Denny call in. Denny, if you're out there, call into the show real quick. I might need Denny's help making that song. All right, appreciate you, bro. Oh, and BBQ initiated a set. That's right. He initiated 2. He initiated some curls and some overhead presses. So I got to do those right now. Thank you, Clint, for reminding me. Travis, I'll see you tonight.
Yep. See you later.
Thank you for reminding me, Clint. Here we go. For every $20 hauler, I got to crank out a set. BBQ dropped 50, so that's 2 sets minimum.
$50 Give me $50 holler. Get by the brother Smitty. Give me $50. Oh, yeah.
Mashed potatoes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. These are the heaviest bands, the 40s, so 80 pounds. 80 pounds there. The thing that's great about this board, and if you want to get this board, all you got to do is go on over to stoicinnovations.com. Unbelievable board. It's called the core board because it works on your core. Like even those presses, you're like flexing your stomach and it activates your core. Literally, I started on Valentine's Day, so the 14th, 15th, 16th, all right, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. This is day 5. 60-day challenge of getting ripped. I already feel my core a lot stronger, like totally, just from doing all these band resistant situations. And then this right here, this is called the dragon flag. The challenge is I'm going to hold this for 45 seconds once I'm strong enough.
Let him cook.
The thing that's also awesome about this board is you can hook the bar up to one of the sets of hooks. Then you can hook up that to another. You can hook up the leg wrap to your other. So you don't have to switch out. You can have 4 different exercises lined up and ready to go. And then the other thing that's cool is like there's 40-pound bands. So each is a 40. each is a 30. You got 20, each is a 20 and a 10. And then if you think to yourself like, hey, what if I'm between 30 and 40 and you want like 35? The beautiful part is you hook up the 30 and then you just step back a little bit. And like, so if you hook them to, let's say this middle hook right here, and instead of doing them straight, you know, on the board, you step to the edge of the board, you still hold it down so it doesn't fly up. And you can make the bands further away, and then the resistance is harder. So you don't even have to switch the bands out to make the 30 feel like 40 or the 30 to feel like 45. You just position your body differently. But this is an awesome thing. Code Smitty gets you 10% off. Stoic Innovations. Make sure you tell them I sent you. You know, using the code will do just that. But you can also email them and just tell them you saw them on the show. They'll be grateful. But check it out. Core Board by Stoic Innovations at stoicinnovations.com. Let me drop the link in the live chat. That way you can just click on it. But man, I feel like the sit-ups on this board are awesome because you put your feet, I don't know about you, but when I do sit-ups, I'm so top heavy that I can't, you know, I can't do sit-ups without putting my foot under something. And it's just like all the different things you can activate with this. I'll see you all tonight. Appreciate you. Navage, I hope you saw my response. Oh yeah, he did. Navage, I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Thank you, BBQ, for the 50. See you all tonight. We're going to draft tonight. And I might have a link. Yes, 7 spots out of 12 filled on this private draft. This is a $5 or a $10 draft. It'll say in this link right here. $5 12-person private draft. Will all stay together till week 17's end, where they crown the winner. The prizes on these are a lot smaller, but if you do a ton of them, you end up, you know, $32 to first place, 17 to second, your money back if you get third. It's a $5 draft, so $5, $32 first place. But the cool part about this is we do like hundreds of these. And if you do like, let's say 30 or 40 of them and you win, you know, a handful, you end up double or tripling your money. And at the end of the year last year, I got like a 400, and I'm not saying I won all of them. I'm not trying to insinuate that I beat everyone in every one of them or anything like that. But doing like 200 or 300 of these, I had a deposit of like $450 or $500 at the end of the week 17 games. And I'm like, where'd this come from? And it was from these little drafts that we do, these $5 drafts. So smash that right there. 5 more to start. 5 more to start. Here's the link one more time. Jump into that draft with me. See you all tonight.